Hello and welcome to, and thank you for taking time to participate in this interview. My name is Alejandro Santana, and I'm conducting research on behalf of UF to better understand the experiences of undergraduate architecture students as yourself who are nearing graduation. We are conducting this research in order to understand the challenges and concern faced by students as yourself as they near graduation and focus regarding their transition from university life to their next career or educational path. The insights that you will provide during this interview are invaluable in helping us improve our support services for students like yourself, and all of your responses will be kept confidential. Before we start, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, great. So to get started, I just want to kind of ask a couple questions to get to know who you are. So if you could please just introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about your background and who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Shannon. I'm currently a senior at UF. I'm in the architecture program and I'm minoring in sustainability in the built environment. Um, I'm nearing graduation and I'm really excited to just get out into the working world and yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so could you also kind of give me a background of where you're from and sort of your family and where you're from and where your family's from?
Yeah, so I was raised on Space Coast in Florida. Um, or- Originally from Jupiter, Florida. My mom is from there, and then my dad is from Mississippi. So most of my family is Southern and pretty much grown up in Florida our whole lives. Um, and yeah, and then like I guess growing up, my parents like we did a lot of traveling, and so I've seen a lot of places, and that's sort of what drew me into architecture.
Okay. And are you first in your family to go to college? And if so, or if not, um, sort of how was that like any help or benefit in to you, the process of you applying to colleges, if you can give me that insight.
So I'm not the first of my family, but it has been really helpful having a lot of members of my family who have been to college because I can learn from their experiences, and they've sort of influenced the sort of path that I've gone down because most of my family is in engineering, um, and so that's been really helpful. And I also have multiple family members who are alumni of UF, so that also sort of helped my
Okay.
trajectory.
So you mentioned that your parents are engineers. So kind of give me the what sort of why you chose architecture and what sort of kind of gravitated you towards the program that UF provides at the DCB College.
So my dad did study engineering and all that, and so from him, like I've gotten like a lot of his genetics of just like logistics and like math that I really enjoy. But my mom was a graphic designer, and so she sort of raised me to like be very like influential in the arts and just like knowing a lot. And like I was always very hands-on doing arts and crafts growing up. And then once I got into high school, there was an interior design program that was offered, and taking that sort of opened my eyes up to like the world of design and how that can be implemented in different ways. And so in high school, I did an exploratory design program here at UF one summer. And so that led me into architecture, and also opened me up into like really wanting to delve back into UF for my bachelor's degree.
That's pretty good. So I guess from there, could you kind of give me a brief description of your journey from architecture here at UF academically, sort of beginning from like you said, when you were in that exploratory course up until now, soon to graduate.
hmm so yeah, I did that course in high school, and that was just a brief summer course just to get to know the UF architecture program, and that's sort of when I set my heart on coming here. And then the following summer, I did another architecture course elsewhere, and that just sort of solidified that architecture was truly what I wanted to do. And then coming into UF, of course, it was COVID and all that, so starting was a little bit rough going over Zoom and everything. But one thing that I really managed to like bring me through that was the student organizations that the architecture department has. And so I had joined the American Institute of Architecture students my first year, which really helped me just sort of like know about the community and like meet more people that I wouldn't have been able to meet before. Um, and then my sophomore year, I um, became the marketing chair of that organization, which um, was really a great experience. And then like going to the in-person events finally was um, great. And then like the studios and stuff in general of like design one to design four are very intensive, and so the that sort of backbone of like having like an organization to fall back on, or and just like having a group of people to like talk to was really helpful. And then following D4, I passed our pinup process, which is basically just um, a basically a large midterm for your bachelor's degree to see if you're able to continue on in the program. And so I was really happy to have been let in um, and continue my journey through the architecture department. And then my junior year, I became president of that club of American Institute of Architecture students, and that really was a influential year of my life of just because not only did I meet more students, but I grew bonds with our faculty and I met local Gainesville architects through that. And it was just a fantastic experience. And then through that, we also had a mentorship program between our architecture students and local Gainesville architects. And through that program, I met one president architect of a local Gainesville firm. And eventually I was his mentee, and um, I received an interview. And then from that interview, I received an internship for last summer working at that firm. And I'm still currently working part-time there. And then the senior year, I've just the last semester of my senior year, my fall semester, I studied abroad. I was gone for a few months, and that was also fantastic. And it was really beneficial because it was completely put on by the U of Architecture department, and it was just a fantastic experience and very well organized, and definitely worth the financials. Um, and then coming out of that, now I'm in my final semester and I'm looking forward to graduate in a couple months here.
Great. Um, a lot of history there. So kind of to go into more detail, um, so through everything, through your journey that you just laid out, what would you say are some like highlights, maybe in like the design class or during the pinup, or maybe um, in the club that you were president in, sort of what challenges that you may have faced, some things that maybe um, kind of like was like a fork in the road, or if anything like or any major challenges or any sort of highlights that you got from that.
I would say that the main challenges for me, um, at least, were from the beginning portions of my journey during COVID, because that was really hard for me to wrap my head around the concepts of design and like really getting into it, because most of architecture is a very hands-on and in-person sort of a thing to learn. Um, so that was sort of difficult, but uh, coming from that, a highlight was definitely the professors, because in my Design 4 class, my professor was absolutely fantastic and probably the professor that I grew closest to in my entire journey. And she really helped solidify my understanding of everything, because we were finally in person and doing hands-on things, and it was a really intensive design course, but the way that she went about it and the relationships that she like made sure to make with each student really helped um, overcome those challenges for me. So I definitely say that that was a major highlight of my journey. And then another one would probably definitely be the study abroad program that I just finished. um, just in learning more of the history and theory behind architecture and seeing it in person is a completely different experience than just sitting in a lecture hall. So it was extremely formative, and I will always appreciate my time spent there.
That's great. So you mentioned how uh, your valuable relationship with your professor and that connection. I want if you can go into a little more detail about sort of how the professors at that program have been, what are some of the key insights that they give you that help you academically and also for the career path uh, looking ahead, and sort of what sort of critiques, because you mentioned that they also critique your pinup that that eventually
Mhm.
said whether or not you were able to continue the program. So sort of what critiques have they given you, both positively and negatively, that have helped you evolved and become better at your craft?
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, that professor specifically, I think something that set her apart was that she tried to get it to know us as people before trying to teach us,
Mhm.
which was extremely helpful because I felt like I had already had a relationship with her and I was very comfortable with her, and like receiving those critiques from her became very natural. Whereas, there's really no emotions involved because I know that she cares about us, and she's only just trying to better our craft. So there's like nothing malicious behind it because I know a lot of students take those things very harshly because they are like determining like basically your worth in the field. So it can get like very sensitive, but she went about it in a really great way. Um, like I would have something, probably like a little bit, like I had some weird ideas, I know, for one project, and I wasn't exactly sure how to accomplish those, but instead of her trying to challenge me on the ideas or anything, she would encourage it and like give me pointers and like different directions that I could take with it instead of just like putting me down, because I know a lot of professors would do that if you have like sort of an out of the box idea.
Mhm.
So that sort of nurturing environment was really helpful. Um, so yeah.
That's good. So kind of to transition away from the academia portion, could you tell me any or how are you feeling about the upcoming, your graduation, and whether or not if you're going to be transitioning to continue, um, work with your internship that you're working on, or if you're looking to um, sort of further your education, whether that be master's or anything else. Kind of what's your thought process behind that and feelings?
Yeah, so I've applied to several master's degree programs across the state and one out of the country. Um, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be furthering my education in graduate school, but it will be determined based on, of course, where I get in and the financial situation of everything. Um, but otherwise, if that doesn't work out, then I will plan on probably moving out of state and working at a firm elsewhere. But for the time being, I am working part-time at the firm that I have been last year, and they've been great, especially as, resume builders and stuff leading up into like giving me more insight and more knowledge before I either go into graduate school, or if that doesn't work out, then going into a different firm.
Great. So to go into more detail about, your process of applying to that internship and as well as applying to grad school, can you give me more insight on the specific challenges or concerns that you have faced or maybe are currently facing with that next step?
Yeah, so at least for my current position, the process of that application was more so developed because of the social networking that I had done due to my organization. So meeting those people basically put me in a position where I could get a job over my peers. So that was extremely helpful. But looking into like jobs outside of my education time period, I I am a little bit more stressed about that because I am planning on leaving the state, and so because of that, I don't really know, I don't have as many connections elsewhere than I do here, and so that is something that greatly concerns me. And that's why I am prioritizing grad school over that because I'd like to establish myself somewhere first beforehand to give myself the opportunity to do that networking. Um, but otherwise, I mean, if I weren't able to do that, then I would really just be basing, where I could get a job and what I would be able to do based on any connections that my networking sphere may have, or just events like the career fair and stuff to try to put myself out there.
Okay. So yes, so you mentioned the career fair, so I want to kind of go into the realm of what sort of career services have you seen or job support or uh, any of those platforms that maybe UF has provided, if you know anything about them or have used them.
Yeah, so I personally only really know about the career fairs hosted by UF, and I have attended multiple of them in the past. Um, but the other resources, I know that they exist, but I do find them like a little bit intimidating.
Mhm.
And also, I haven't really heard too many great things about them personally, so I don't really put the effort into that. Instead, I put my effort into my own personal ventures of, just meeting people
Mhm.
instead of those because those can tend to be, a bit stale and not really personal. And so I don't
Mhm.
think that they're as successful than they could be.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, you mentioned that some of the resources that you've seen haven't been as successful, being sort of not as useful as having in-person connections. So kind of what do you think could be improved upon on those services, if you have any insight or um, kind of delve deep into more why you think those resources are, as you said, intimidating, or why they may not work as well.
Um, I feel like they don't work as well because they're not, I mean, most people don't even know about them. I myself don't really know the specifics of them. And so that's like one problem in itself. Um, but another is just that I found, especially like even in career fair, like most of the companies listed or whatnot, they're not really hiring for like people who just graduated. They want people with experience, and they're not really going to give any of us a job.
Mhm.
And so at least like career fair itself is like majority of firms like they're just there for clout. Like they don't really care about our future and like what we're going to be doing with them.
Mhm.
Um, but and I have a I'm not 100% sure, but I have a feeling that other career resources are likely similar, where most ventures aren't really going to get you anywhere. Um, you might be able to like have a phone call with someone or have an email with someone, but at the end of the day, they're not really looking for entry level college students. And so it's intimidating because, you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to put yourself out on the limb, and in the end of the day, majority, if not all, like places that you apply are just going to either ignore you or say no.
Mhm. Um, so kind of to go back to the point that you made about your networking experiences with both your club and with your professors. Can you elaborate on any positive networking experiences that you had, or any collections with alumni, and how they
Uh,
impacted your career planning?
yeah, those experiences have pretty much defined a lot of my what I've done at UF. Definitely the mentorship program through AAS was the most influential through meeting my current boss. Um, so that was one fantastic avenue, and I found that student organizations offer much better career resources than, say, overall UF or even UF colleges. Um, and so that was great. But even I mean, personally, as the president of AAS, I was given a lot more opportunities, say, to attend dinners with like local AAA Gainesville. So that was just, events where like the entire local architect base would get together and have a large dinner, and I was invited as president. And so for me personally, that was a great experience, although I know not a lot of students are able to go to that.
Mhm.
But things like that really helped put my face out there, not even necessarily talking to people, but being able to just be there is like a great opportunity. Um, and then we also had other events through that student organization, going to the Florida State Capitol to advocate for architect issues. Um, there's just a lot of events like that that allow you to get your name out there, get your face out there, that are really beneficial. And I haven't really seen the college putting much effort into helping us do that. It's more so student organizations. And, I would know I was the president of it, and I tried to give my members as many opportunities as possible. But even that is limited because we only have so much power.
And so I guess my final question to wrap up here would be, in your opinion, what skills do you believe that you've accumulated from your time here at UF were most beneficial to your success in landing an internship and becoming president of the club that you're in, and that are also beneficial into work that you're going to possibly get in the future, or like getting that further education? And additionally, what other skills or knowledge gaps do you think that you can address before going into that transition?
Yeah, so definitely through my experiences, I have become much more of a leader in like my group of peers. Um, I sort of spearhead a lot of things, and that's something that I never really did before. So UF was really influential in helping me like develop that skill and like know how to delegate tasks, lead a group. Um, but also just in like studios and studio culture, is very collaborative. And so that's something that I also was exposed to a lot. I was working in groups, working in teams, and just like, asking for advice and like giving advice. That's something that I also had never really developed much. And that seems like sort of a background skill, but it's extremely important going into the professional world. And it's something that I want to continue growing because I am more familiar with leadership roles, but I need to learn more how to be a team member. And so that's something that I want to finish learning before I graduate. But other than that, UF has obviously, like, I've learned more practical skills within architecture to, with different softwares and programs and just the skills that you need to know in architecture.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me this time to interview you and sharing your insights today. Your input is very valuable to us, and if you have any additional thoughts or feedback that you'd like to share, you're free to do so now.
I think I covered everything,
All right,
but thank you.
great. Well, thank you, Shannon.